All right, so you want the scoop on Jash Engineering, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't hold back on the info. You sent us their annual report financials, even that deep BRSR report on their sustainability.
Yeah.
It's like you're building a Jash Engineering encyclopedia.
Wow, that's dedication. It's a goldmine of information, though. We're bound to uncover some gems for you today.
Exactly. Let's figure out what kind of company Jash Engineering is, how they make their money, and if they're one to watch. First, let's set the scene. The global water and wastewater treatment market. This thing is projected to hit USD 617.81 billion by 2032.
More than double where it is now. It's a booming industry, no doubt about it.
It's huge, and with increasing water scarcity, it's only going to become more crucial. Over 40% of the world's population is already living in water-stressed areas.
Yeah, and the report mentioned Indonesia's capital, Jakarta. It's literally sinking. They said a third of the city could be underwater by 2050.
That's insane. The government's actually moving the entire capital to Borneo because of it.
Exactly. It really highlights the urgent need for solutions to these water challenges. And that's where companies like Jash Engineering come in. They're poised to ride this wave of growth, especially in emerging markets like India.
Speaking of India, the report mentioned the Jal Jeevan mission. What's that all about?
It's a huge initiative by the Indian government. Their goal is to provide safe drinking water to every rural household in the country. That kind of massive infrastructure project is a dream come true for a company like Jash, especially with their 50 years of experience.
So they've got the experience and the market is ripe for growth. But what about Jash specifically? What makes them stand out? They boast about having 350 years of combined experience across all their subsidiaries.
Yeah, that's a lot of know-how under one roof. It definitely tells you they're not just some small local operation. And over 60% of their revenue comes from projects outside of India, so they're a global player.
Wow, global indeed. Their report mentioned projects on 4 continents. So what exactly is their bread and butter? What kind of water solutions are we talking about?
They specialize in manufacturing a wide range of equipment for various water-related needs. Intake systems, pumping stations, entire treatment plants, even desalination plants.
Their annual report had a whole list of specialized components, too. Water control gates, screening systems, valves.
Yeah.
If it has to do with water management, it seems like they're involved somehow.
And that's really the key to their business model. Manufacturing and supplying this critical equipment for water management projects globally. It's a whole ecosystem of solutions.
So they're a one-stop shop for water management. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now let's get to the exciting part. What's fueling Jash's growth? They seem to be on a roll.
Well, a few things are working in their favor. They have a strong order book, which means they've got plenty of projects lined up. And they're also making some strategic acquisitions, like their recent purchase of Mar Maschinenbau in Austria.
That one caught my eye. Mar specializes in some pretty innovative water filtering technology, right?
Exactly. It gives Josh access to cutting-edge tech and strengthens their foothold in the European market. It's a win-win, but there's more. They're aggressively expanding their production capacity, too.
The report mentioned new facilities coming up in Chennai and expansions to their special economic zone. What's a special economic zone anyway?
Think of it as a specially designated area with relaxed regulations and tax benefits. It's designed to encourage businesses to set up shop and export goods. Jash uses these zones to boost their manufacturing and global reach.
Clever move. So they're all in on growth. Their goal is to boost their capacity to over our 900 crores within the next 2 years. But ambitious expansion plans need solid financials to back them up. What's the financial picture like for Jash?
This is where it gets interesting. Jash actually boasts a pretty solid track record. They reported a consolidated revenue growth of 26% and a 29% jump in their profit after tax in the last fiscal year.
That's impressive. What about their profitability? Are they actually making decent margins on all this work?
Their consolidated PAT margin sits at a healthy 12.8%. And a big chunk of that success can be attributed to their U.S. subsidiary Rodney Hunt, which is performing incredibly well. All signs point to a company that knows how to manage costs and generate profits.
So the company seems to be doing well financially, but who are the people behind this success? Tell me about the folks running the show at Josh.
Jash Engineering is led by a seasoned team of professionals. At the helm, you've got Pratik Patel, the managing director, and Suresh Patel, the executive director. They both bring decades of experience to the table.
Their combined expertise must be a huge asset in a complex industry like this. But it's not just about the top brass, right? What does their BRSR report say about the overall work environment at Josh?
Their BRSR report highlights their dedication to fostering a positive and equitable workplace. They're big on providing fair opportunities for all employees, which is always a good sign. It speaks to their commitment to building a strong and sustainable company culture.
That's great to hear, but every company faces its own set of risks. What are some potential challenges Josh might encounter down the road?
Like many businesses these days, they're vulnerable to global supply chain disruptions. We've all seen how those can impact production and profits.
True, and in an industry so intertwined with environmental regulations, staying compliant must be a constant concern, right?
Absolutely. Environmental regulations are constantly evolving. Jash needs to stay ahead of the curve. Failing to comply could mean hefty fines and reputational damage, which it could really set them back.
Okay, so they've got some hurdles to watch out for. Now let's zoom in on their recent performance. What can their latest quarterly results tell us about their current trajectory and future outlook?
As of August 2024, they've got a healthy order book position of US $3.25 million. And get this, they've got another US $2.75 million in negotiated orders that they expect to finalize soon. They're practically swimming in potential business.
Wow, that's a lot of incoming projects. What are they projecting based on this strong demand?
They're aiming for a whopping 48% year-on-year growth for the 2024-25 fiscal year. They're shooting for total revenue of around US $4 million. Ambitious, to say the least.
It makes you wonder if that impressive growth projection includes the potential boost from their MAR Maschinenbau acquisition. And that could really shake things up, right?
You're absolutely right. That acquisition isn't even factored into their current projections, so the actual growth could be even higher. It's definitely a game changer that could significantly boost both their revenue and profitability in the coming years.
We've covered a lot of ground here. The industry Jash's business model, their growth drivers. But to really get under the hood, we need to break down their financials in more detail. Let's dive into their profit and loss statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement to get a clear picture of their financial health.
I'm with you. Analyzing those statements will give us a much deeper understanding of their financial performance and stability. We can then use that knowledge to assess whether their ambitious growth plans are truly realistic.
Exactly. But we can't forget about the people at the helm. We need to look at the backgrounds of the promoters and management team, any recent changes in stakeholders' holdings, and what the management themselves are saying about the future in their discussion and analysis.
Absolutely. Understanding the management's vision and strategy is crucial for evaluating a company's long-term prospects. Plus, any shifts in stakeholder holdings can offer insights into market sentiment and how others perceive Jash's potential.
We're piecing together a comprehensive picture here, and those details are essential. There's so much more to unpack. But we'll have to save that for part 2 of our Jash Engineering deep dive. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Let's dig into the numbers behind Jash Engineering's success. Where should we start?
Let's crack open that profit and loss statement. We saw some impressive revenue growth and profitability, but I'm curious how those numbers break down.
Okay, let's start with their consolidated revenue for the fiscal year 2023-24. They brought in a remarkable Rs. $519.67 million. That's a 26% increase compared to the previous year.
That's a big jump.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, their U.S. subsidiary Rodney Hunt was a big contributor to their overall profitability.
Exactly. Rodney Hunt's performance really shines through in their consolidated PAT margin of 12.8%. That tells me they're managing costs efficiently and generating solid profits. But the P&L statement is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right. What does their balance sheet tell us about their assets and liabilities? Any red flags or hidden gems in there?
Well, one thing that stands out is their commitment to expansion. Their balance sheet shows they've been investing heavily in property, plant, and equipment.
Makes sense considering their ambitious capacity expansion plans. They're putting their money where their mouth is.
For sure. Now let's look at their cash flow statement. This gives us insight into how Jash generates and uses its cash.
So what's the cash flow situation looking like? Are they burning through cash to fuel their growth, or are they managing it well?
Their cash flow from operations is healthy. It actually increased significantly in the last fiscal year, reaching Rs. $2,798.37 million. That means their core business is generating a solid stream of cash.
That's encouraging. But they're also investing a lot in expansion. Is that putting a strain on their cash flow?
It's true, their expansion investments are using a significant portion of their cash, but their strong operational cash flow is helping to offset those costs. They seem to be striking a good balance between investing for the future and maintaining a healthy cash position.
So no reckless overspending. That's good to know. But to really assess their financial health, we need to look at some key financial ratios. Yeah. Where should we start?
The debt-to-equity ratio is always a good place to begin. If you think of buying a house, a lower debt-to-equity ratio is like having a bigger down payment. It shows you're financially stronger and less reliant on borrowed money.
I like that analogy. So how does Jash's debt-to-equity ratio look?
Their debt-to-equity ratios has actually improved in the last fiscal year, decreasing from 0.34 to 0.23. So they're using less debt to finance their assets and relying more on their own equity. That's generally seen as a positive sign.
Definitely a good trend.
Yeah.
What other ratios should we be looking at?
Let's check out their inventory turnover ratio. This tells us how efficiently they're managing their inventory. A higher ratio usually means they're selling their inventory quickly and efficiently.
What's Josh's inventory turnover ratio telling us? Are they moving products smoothly, or are things piling up?
Their inventory turnover ratio has actually decreased slightly compared to the previous year, going from 3.80 to 3.68. It's not a huge drop, but it's something to keep an eye on. It could suggest a slight slowdown in sales for certain products.
Interesting. Always good to be aware of potential hiccups. Analyzing these ratios gives us a much clearer picture of Jash's financial strengths and potential weaknesses. But numbers only tell part of the story. Let's talk about the people behind the numbers.
Agreed. A company's leadership is crucial to its success. And Jash Engineering has a team of experienced professionals at the helm, starting with Pratik Patel, the managing director, and Suresh Patel, the executive director.
Yeah, the annual report mentioned their decades of experience in the industry. That has to be a huge asset in such a complex market.
Absolutely. Their experience and expertise likely play a big role in their success. It's also worth noting that their board of directors includes independent directors with diverse expertise. That suggests a commitment to good corporate governance. They're not just relying on a small group to make decisions.
And their BRSR report really emphasized their commitment to ethical business practices and sustainability. They're trying to build a company that's not just profitable, but also responsible.
It's a positive sign for sure. But let's not forget that even the best-run companies face risks. Jash is no exception.
We've already talked about their vulnerability to supply chain disruptions and the importance of staying compliant with environmental regulations.
Those are definitely key risks, but their annual report actually highlights some additional risk factors worth exploring.
Like what? Tell me more.
They specifically mention the challenges of expanding into new markets, especially in regions with different regulations and infrastructure limitations.
That makes sense. Navigating different regulatory landscapes and dealing with infrastructure challenges can be really costly and time-consuming.
Right. And they also acknowledge the constant threat of competition. The water treatment industry is becoming more competitive with both domestic and international players fighting for market share.
So Jash needs to stay innovative and competitive to keep growing. They can't just rest on their laurels.
Exactly. Their ability to differentiate themselves, develop new technologies, and adapt to the changing market will determine their long-term success.
It seems like they're aware of the risks and are actively trying to mitigate them. Their commitment to innovation and expansion is a key part of their strategy for staying ahead. But speaking of staying ahead, let's dive into their recent quarterly results and see what they tell us about their current performance and future outlook.
As of August 2024, their order book looks strong at US $3.25 million. And remember, those negotiated orders worth US $2.75 million. They expect those to be finalized soon, which would boost their backlog even more.
That's a good sign. Demand for their products and services seems strong. What kind of growth are they projecting with this demand?
They're projecting a 48% year-on-year growth for the fiscal year 2024-25. Ambitious. But if their recent performance is anything to go by, it might not be out of reach.
It's crazy how that projected growth doesn't even include their acquisition of Machine & Bow.
Yeah.
That could really change things for them, couldn't it?
Absolutely. That acquisition could unlock some serious growth opportunities, especially in terms of expanding their technological capabilities and opening doors to new markets. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the coming quarters.
It definitely will. We've covered a lot today, dissecting their financials, analyzing their leadership, and exploring their risk factors. But what does the management think about all of this? What are they saying about the future?
That's a great question. To find out, we need to dive into the management discussion and analysis section of their annual report. That's where we'll get a glimpse into the minds of the people running the show.
I'm all ears. Let's hear what they have to say, but we'll have to save that for part 3 of our Jash Engineering Deep Dive. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive on Jash Engineering. We've dug into their financials, looked at their leadership, and even talked about some potential challenges. Now let's get the big picture. What's the management's vision for the future?
Time to crack open that management discussion and analysis section, the MD&A. This is where we get inside the minds of the people running the show. What are they thinking about Jash's performance, their strategies, and their outlook?
I'm ready. What stood out to you when you went through it?
Well, one thing that really jumped out was their emphasis on government initiatives driving demand in this sector. They specifically highlighted India's Jal Jeevan mission.
Oh, yeah. That huge project to bring safe drinking water to all rural households.
Exactly. The management sees it as a key growth driver, and they're strategically positioning themselves to take advantage of this trend. And it's not just India either. They're pursuing similar opportunities in other emerging markets facing water challenges. They have a global vision.
Yeah, I noticed that they're not shying away from the challenges of expanding internationally. They acknowledge things like economic headwinds and high debt levels in some countries.
Right. But they're still optimistic about the growth potential, especially in places where governments are supporting water infrastructure development. It's a calculated risk, but they seem prepared.
It's a balancing act, for sure. But their track record internationally suggests they know what they're doing.
Definitely. Another key theme was their focus on innovation. They're constantly investing in research and development to create and refine technologies. Their acquisition of Mar Maschinenbau is a perfect example.
Absolutely. That acquisition gets some cutting-edge water filtration technology.
Yeah.
It could be a game changer.
It could. And they're not just acquiring new tech, they're also scaling up manufacturing to meet the growing demand. Remember those expansion plans?
They're not messing around. It's clear they're playing the long game. They're building a foundation for sustainable growth.
And that long-term vision also includes their people. The MD&A highlighted their commitment to a positive and equitable work environment. They see their employees as a key asset.
Which aligns with their BRSR report. They're cultivating a company culture that attracts and keeps good people.
Right. But they're not just focused internally. They also addressed external risks like those supply chain issues and environmental compliance challenges we talked about.
I saw that. They've got a proactive risk management policy in place. They're not waiting for problems to happen.
Exactly. And they're using technology to strengthen their supply chain, which is smart in this unpredictable world.
And of course, they can't afford to mess up on environmental compliance.
Nope. They see it as a core part of their business, operating responsibly and sustainably.
So considering all this, their performance strategies, risk management, what's the management's outlook for the future?
They're cautiously optimistic. They
Yeah.
know the challenges, but they also see a bright future for the industry. Those global trends like population growth and water scarcity are driving demand, and they think Jash is well-positioned.
Sounds like they've got a good balance of confidence and awareness. That's reassuring.
Definitely. They acknowledge the risks and uncertainties, but they're focused on navigating those challenges strategically and building a company that can last.
Wow. We've really gone deep on Jash Engineering today. From the industry trends to their financials to the management's vision.
It's amazing how it all comes together. From their global reach to their sustainability, it's clear they're aiming to be more than just another engineering company.
Makes you think, with their focus on innovation and expansion, what kind of impact could they have on the whole water treatment industry? Could they help push for new technologies that solve these global water challenges?
It's a great question. We'll have to wait and see how it all unfolds, but they're definitely a company to watch.
Absolutely. We've given you a deep dive into Jash Engineering. But the exploration doesn't end here. Keep researching, analyzing, and forming your own conclusions. Who knows what you might discover?
Remember, knowledge is power, especially in a world that's constantly changing. The more you know, the better prepared you'll be.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Jash Engineering. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.